going to be sports related, but we had a big death in the last couple of days.
Well, you stole my thunder, Rich, because I was going to say I spoke to you before the show, and I was going to talk to you about something, and I want to hear your reaction. I was going to say it's Pete Rose's birthday on April 14th. 2 more days, he'll be 82. Pete Rose not in the Hall of Fame. O.J. Simpson in the Hall of Fame, and I wanted to talk to you about that because the NFL doesn't have a stipulation where they throw these dirtbags out. Lawrence Taylor made the Hall of Fame, and a couple of weeks later, he's dealing drugs, whatever. So I wanted to know with you now that O.J. Simpson's bust will be in the Hall of Fame forever now because he was a great football player. We have to agree he's one of the best running backs ever to play the game. But in terms of character, what do you think?
All right. I'm sorry I stole your thunder there for a second because I wanted to.
I wanted to talk about the Pete Rose turning 82. And
no, but you know what? It's very interesting you say that. You know why? Because it's very interesting you say that because I was going to kind of go into Pete Rose a little bit too when it came to that because I think what it boils down to, Eric, with that is I think it's 2 different games to begin with. Okay, it's it has nothing to do with football and baseball. It has to do with the person that did the banning. A personal vendetta against somebody, against a personal vendetta, or that somebody that used their power to ban somebody, because of their personal lives. You know what I mean? Which I think is kind of like what modern day is happening now to a lot of people, social media and stuff like that. Like you walk into a job interview and you murder in a job interview, but this guy goes home and he looks up on Facebook and, you said something derogatory like 15 years ago. The guy's been like, oh, wow, you're not going to get this job. You know what I mean? So I think because in the NFL is like the NFL is kind of sketchy in the NFL or touchy in the NFL because when you think about it, it's like, look at Rashid Rice driving around, doing 200 miles an hour in a car. And like you said, Lawrence Taylor, sniffing cocaine and like, trying to get sexual favors from a young girl and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, you could have people that are good at what they do, but their personal lives could be a mess. So I think that I do think, I guess NFL, if they're going to stand by their guns, I guess they have to keep OJ's bust in the Hall of Fame. And I think that there's too much going on, Eric, right now that opens up the door for Pete Rose to be in the Hall of Fame. It's just so much contradicting stuff going on that, and I understand it's kind of like, you know what you could equate this kind of to, which is kind of weird. You could equate it to like the Second Amendment. All right. Second Amendment, the right to bear arms is like, I believe in it. But like the people that are vehemently against it, it's like, well, go back and read what it says. Like if you read what the, right to bear arms was back when it really came out, I'm talking about people with muskets and defending their, 4x4 piece of property. So I think as stuff evolves through the years, I think it's kind of like, I think that's kind of like, stuff hasn't evolved since then. You know what I mean? So they're kind of nitpicking at stuff like the gambling stuff, like, it's legal everywhere now. And Pete Rose supposedly gambled. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, do you have to contradict the stuff and let him in? I mean, listen, I know murder is not legal, but he was innocent, innocent until proven guilty. He was innocent in the court of law.
Let me talk about OJ compared to Pete Rose, though. OJ, and you'll agree with me on this. OJ was like America's darling for quite a while there. The commercials, the movies, the NFL shows that he was on. So everyone loved O.J. Simpson for at least after he retired in 79, I guess 80. And it's funny because Phil Simms almost went to the 49ers. So O.J., it was a whole thing where if you look at it in 1979, what happened, but O.J. Simpson, he was like Americana. The whole world loved O.J. He was the marketing, he was like, I'm trying to think of a name, like not like Michael.
He's the modern day Snoop Dogg. I'm not kidding around. He's the modern day Snoop Dogg. Well, Snoop Dogg's the modern day OJ for personality wise.
Right.
Appeals to everybody.
Exactly. And that's what it was. Yeah. He appealed to everybody. Pete Rose, on the other hand, Pete Rose, a narcissistic douche. That's what he was, because it was all about Pete Rose. But OJ just loved the spotlight, though. You got to admit that, right?
Now, let me ask you a question. You just said something about Pete Rose being what you were saying, like he's narcissistic, right? Narcissistic. Now, I don't think he, well, when it came to baseball, let's say per se, okay, his outside persona is one thing, but I don't think take his outside persona and Name me a baseball player that you've seen on the baseball field that played harder, ran harder, and like running over Ray Fosse, I don't even think was just being a dick. It was just a still. He said, somebody asked him, how did you get all those hits? He goes, I never gave up an at bat. I always played 100%. So now I would think a narcissist would be somebody like, like these fucking fans are yelling at me.
It's just his attitude, oh, it's Pete. He wears a t-shirt with his face on and stuff. It's just, Pete Rose allegedly raped a 15-year-old way back when.
Right.
When he was asked in Philadelphia about it, he said something, I forget what he said. I have to look up the quote, but he said that was 50 years ago. So is that he's admitting to it, or is he just saying, it's 50, like it's like nothing to him, basically.
Do you know, the only reason why I know this, because my wife has been on a kick lately watching the documentary. Do you know how old Priscilla Presley was when Elvis hooked up with her?
Like 14, 15 or something?
14.
Mm-hmm.
So now we vilify people who we want to vilify. And that, like, yeah, Pete Rose was a douche. All right. Okay. So it's easy to hate Pete Rose for doing something that he should be hated for. Whereas Elvis is like the king of rock, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, but he kind of did the same thing. But you know what? We all love Elvis. You could, and then whenever you say that, it's like, Rich, it's just Elvis.
But Rich, he stayed with Priscilla Presley, right? He stayed with her, though, right?
Yes.
So
No, he did. He did.
Right.
No, I'm not. You're right. You just said, the rape thing is the thing that,
Yep.
You're right. You're right. Understood. I mean,
and who knows? Elvis down south, the laws might have been different back then. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, I don't condone it, but I think times that I think at times they're looked at from being who they are.
Right.
Like, wow, I can't believe that guy did that too. Yeah, I figured that guy would do that. He's a douche.
Yep. But then you look at a guy like Tony Gwynn, lovable guy. And, even what's his name? Kirby Puckett. Kirby Puckett was a lovable guy. Look what happened to him at the end too, Rich. Yeah. He became like, oh my God, you don't realize about that. But, I was just watching a piece of paper at Citi Field blowing around.
I'm going to talk about my anti-Mets curse in a couple of minutes too.
Oh, boy.
Remind me about remind me about that. So I'm trying to keep going.
No, I just think, this whole thing got brought up with OJ and stuff. So, I mean, we'll never know the truth about OJ. We'll never know if he did it or not. But in terms of being an athlete, football player, one of the best in the game ever, Pete Rose, one of the best in the game ever. The problem with Pete Rose is there was a law that was written in the 1900s. Yes. The law was never changed, Rich. And you know what? He broke the law, basically. Look at Ohtani right now. Look, if Ohtani